Hello, my name is Myrna. I live in Australia, but I am from El Salvador. I'm going to make the traditional pupusas. A lot of people like them, and I love them too. This is my recipe that I have tried to get from different people from El Salvador, and this is my experience throughout 25 years trying to make the best pupusas. I think they are the best. Anyway, my friend says so as well. I buy, to make the chicharrones, the pupusas are made of cheese and chicharrones. The chicharrones are made of pork. I buy belly pork. I buy from the Vietnamese or Chinese butchers because I think it doesn't smell as bad as the mainstream butcher, and the taste is actually much better. I buy the belly in pieces, and then this is to make the chicharrones. I cut off the skin and then try to leave the fat on the meat, because we will need that fat to cook the chicharrones in and make them golden. So I cut it this way. You have to be careful, try not to cut your skin, your fingers. And if you can see, the skin is actually very thin, but I leave the fat still there attached to the meat. So it's kind of just sliding the cleaver through the meat, and then I cut it in small pieces and put it in pan. When I cut this, I put the fat at the bottom, so when the water is totally consumed or absorbed, the fat starts releasing and then start cooking. It takes about 2 hours, an hour and a half, 2 hours to cook, so you need a little bit of time to make it work. Also, we need to have some lemon ready, because I add a little bit of lemon and also some garlic and salt. We have to cover this with water, so I think it cooks quite slow and nicely. I'll just finish the last piece, and sometimes the skin breaks in the middle, then I have to start again on the other side. And it's you have to be quite strong, and remember that if you leave the skin, it won't allow the fat to be released, and we need the fat, otherwise it's not chicharron. Okay, now it's the last piece, and I just find enough room to cover it. Then I have some boiled water and cover it completely. And I really don't have any recipe for salt or the amount. I just calculated what I do. I imagine that it is my food, and I just put in salt around at the top, and then at the bottom again just put in salt, and I think that's enough. Then I will add a little bit of lemon and some garlic, and I'm going to put this to boil it for maybe, I don't know, until the water is totally absorbed, and then my chicharrones will be done. While the chicharron is ready, we're going to make the cheese for the pupusas. So I cut the zucchinis in small pieces. I add zucchini to add a little bit of vegetarian to the dish. Put it in the food processor, and I also add cheddar cheese. I use the tasty one. I don't use mozzarella. I also use feta. Generally the normal Australian feta, but I'm using the Danish today, and it's a little bit salty, but it's quite tasty. Generally I add the provolone, but I didn't have any provolone, Italian provolone this time, so I will have also some cream just in case I need a little bit of softness in the cheese. So I'm going to process the cheddar cheese because it's the hardest one. So I just calculate. I don't have a measure for how much I need. So this will be a bit noisy. Now I'm going to add the feta. Just break it. It's quite soft, quite creamy. In El Salvador, the cheese that is traditional for pupusas is the cream cheese, which is not made in Australia. So this one will do. A combination of cheeses to get the actual flavor, the traditional flavor. Now the cheese is done, and I'm going to, it's a bit soft, it's a bit too soft. You cannot use it like that. If you put it inside the tortilla like that, it will break out and it will be a big mess. So the best thing to do, and this is what I usually do, is to put it in the fridge to get a bit colder, because at the moment it's a bit soft, warm because of the processing. But if you put it in the fridge, it will harden up a little bit, not too much, because you need kind of a firm but not hard, because if it's hard, it will break the masa, and if it's soft, it will come out as well. So the best thing is to have it kind of a hard and firm, really firm, like an avocado. When you touch the avocado, that is firm but no hard, neither soft. So this is the cheese. This is the curtido for the pupusas to put on top of the pupusas when you are going to eat them. It's cabbage and carrots. The cabbage has to be cut very thinly, this way. And then you add oregano, salt, and some people add raw onion, very finely sliced, and also one of the ingredients is also the apple cider vinegar. Once your cabbage is finely cut, you add boiling water and then take it off immediately. This way the cabbage remains quite crunchy, but it won't hurt your stomach. So this is just almost the end of slicing the cabbage. Just a little bit more to make it fine, and then we add the boiling water. We just add the boiling water just to cover it. As I explained before, it makes the cabbage remain crunchy, and then we toss it out. And I can find it. And now my carrot is totally grated. That's all the ingredients that I'm going to add to it. And then I have the oregano. I calculate, maybe a couple of teaspoons, maybe a little bit more. And then I use Himalayan salt, the pink one, because it's better when you're going to eat something raw. And I put maybe, this is quite strong salt. And then I add the organic vinegar, the apple cider. It's really good for you. And I think that's enough. I also will add more apple cider vinegar, but this is traditional, like the vintage vinegar, Australian, because this is actually very strong. So just a bit is enough to make it quite acidic, and just mix it and leave it there for a little while to ferment, and then we can add to the pupusas. And it looks really delicious. It's really nice to accompany the pupusas, to go with the pupusas. It goes really well with it. And this is curtido. Hi, these are the chicharrones already cooked, browned and nice. As you can see, a lot of time has passed since we put the chicharrones to cook. About 2 hours, 3 hours maybe. It takes a long time, mainly because I put a lot of water, but that's the best to, you know, get the oil from it, so it's a little bit more healthy. So now what I'm going to do now is to cut the chicharrones into pieces, small pieces, making sure that there is no any cartilage, so it doesn't go in the food processor. I'm going to start with the onion and 4 tomatoes. So I'm going to put the onion first, not the whole onion because it's just too much. Although I don't think, I never done it, but you know, like I'll put only half because it's a big onion. I use the Spanish onion because it's quite tasty. And I'm going to get the juice out of the tomato because we don't want the chicharron to become too watery, otherwise it's just a problem. So I squeeze the juice out of the tomato and as much as I can, and I just put it in the processor. So I finished getting the juice out of the tomatoes, and I'm going to blend them. Okay, my tomato is blended with the onion, and I'm going to add the chicharrones. It's very important to put, as you saw, I put 4 tomatoes and half an onion. The reason to put a lot of tomatoes is because traditionally the chicharron had the flavor of the tomato in it. You know, that acidity that only tomato can give. Most people don't do it now, but I think that's the key to a good chicharron for the pupusa. So I'm going to, as you said, 4 tomatoes. I'm actually doing 2 kilos of pork. You may think it is a lot. And yeah, you're right, but I do a lot because it takes a long time, and also it's quite nice, and I can feed my family, you know, 3 days, and I don't have to cook again, which is a bonus. So I'm going to do the chicharron bit by bit. So these are the bits that I need to get rid of. Yeah, this is the cartilage, and that is actually quite annoying when it gets into the blender. So I try to get rid of it as much as I can. And this chicharron is very tender, and that's because I had it cooking for, you know, for such a long time. And the more water you put, the longer it will take. Yeah, it's really delicious. You know, not salty, just perfect. So you don't need to put any salt in anything. It's just, you know, the cheese doesn't need any salt. It's just the salt that comes in the cheese, and the chicharron is just the one you put before you cook them. Because if you put the salt after you cook it, it doesn't absorb the salt. So that's a very important step. Okay, the chicharron now is all blended. As you can see, all is left is just the fat. And I have to clarify that this fat is from the meat. I didn't fry this, I just let it release the fat and then let it brown in their own fat. And now I can throw this away or maybe use it for another dish. So what we have now is this, the chicharron. It's still a bit too soft for my liking. I don't think it would be good for, to make the pupusas straight away. So I will need to put it in the fridge so it gets a little bit solidified with the fat. Because still there is a lot of fat, like even though there is not, the fat from the chicharrones is not in, it still is, it's meat, it's pork meat. So this is, the color is just, the orange color of the tomato, and smells delicious. I just want to just explain that, when you put all the chicharron together in the processor, sometimes you get bits like have not been, shredded. So I just have to put it back. So it's really important that you check your the whole, meat to make sure that it doesn't have lumps of meat that have not been processed. Otherwise, it will puncture your pupusa and break it. It just becomes a mess when you're cooking it. So just making sure of that, all right? Now I'm going to prepare the masa for the pupusas. Since I live in Australia, in Brisbane, I buy this masa lista from, I think it's San Carlos. I buy it in some of the shops, like delicatessen shops, where they sell the specialty things like ethnic stuff. So this is a pure maize corn. I live in Brisbane, so I go to Penisi in Woolloongabba, or sometimes the Indian shops in the valley, or Mango in Sunnybank Hills. Those are the places I know. It's about $8 for 2 kilos. I don't really have a measure to say how much water I need for this, but what I'm going to do today is I'm going to, because I just calculate whatever, I'm going to do a cup of masa, and I'm going to try to measure how much water I will put. So I'm going to use a cup of water. I never measured it before, so I'm going to try and see how I go. I usually do it by just, trying. So obviously this is not enough. The water is just tepid water. Doesn't need to be hot or warm or cold. It just doesn't matter really. But obviously if you put hot water, it will burn your hands. So I just want to see if 1 cup of water is enough for 1 cup of flour. And it seems so, but I think it needs a little bit more. It's still a bit dry. So maybe I will try maybe 1/4 cup and see how I go. I put 1/2 cup because I think it will be too soft if I put too much. Yeah, this seems the right, the right consistency. It is really soft, but not too soft. Bear in mind that the more you knead the dough, the harder it becomes, like not harder, but like firmer. So this is actually the right consistency. So I would say 1 cup of water and a bit, maybe half of 1/4 cup, and a cup of flour. It will give you the consistency that you need. Maybe a tiny bit, because I guess it dries as time goes by. It dries a little bit more. And I am probably taking a lot of time telling you about this because this is the most important thing. If you don't have the right consistency of the masa, it will break. So it is important to have it soft, but if you have it too soft, it will break. And if you have it too hard, it will break. So it's really, you know, like it's almost like plastilin, I think. You know, a little bit, yeah, like almost like plastilin. But if it feels too sticky, maybe a tiny bit more. And the other thing is when you're handling masa, you should have your hands wet because otherwise it'll stick and it breaks. So my hands are not wet at the moment, but when I'm making the pupusas, I will make sure that my hands are wet all the time. Okay, now it's done. Now I'm going to make the pupusa. I just put a little bit of chicharron in the fridge to make it a little bit more solid, and I'm going to make it because I have a special way to make the pupusas. I don't do it the traditional way because it takes too long and I'm not an expert. So anyway, bear with me. Okay, this is the most important part because you can have the best ingredients, but if you don't know how to make the pupusa, how to put it together, it's just not going to work for you. I know people who have attempted to do this and they haven't been able to. They haven't given me, you know, the masa because they couldn't. So this is I use a large piece of glad wrap, and this is how I use it. I put it this way. You know, as straight as you can with glad wrap. You know, it's difficult to handle. And also I have a lid. This is from baking dish, but any lid that is flat will do. I use sandwich maker. I used to, before the sandwich maker were in fashion, I took one of the Teflon pans, and this is where I cook my pupusas for a long, long time. Just that. You don't need oil, you don't need anything. Just the pan is enough, right? Teflon, eventually it kind of, you know, went away. It just, I don't know what happened, but that's where I used to do my pupusas. Actually, this doesn't stick anymore for some reason. So I need this and that's all I need to make a really good pupusa. Also, I need a little bit of water to wet my hands, and I'm going to take. This is already hot, and my pupusas are very big. When you eat one, my God, you cannot even move. One is enough, and I like it that way because I don't have to cook many pupusas. You know, like a big pupusa will fill you up. So I'll start again. You make a bowl of masa, you know, like that fits into my hand, and then you make a hole in it. You put your hand like that, and then you just press it down to make a hole. Once your well is done, then I put a tablespoon of, I like more chicharron than queso. Some people like more cheese or queso than chicharron. It's really up to you. It's, you know, your own taste. So I put the chicharron now is a little bit more, you know, a bit harder than it was before. After in the freezer for a little while. So I'm going to put all this much of chicharron. You see the consistency? It's actually firm. This is the way it should be. Otherwise it will break. Still, it breaks a little bit. I am not an expert making pupusas, but you know, my pupusas are pretty good. I know I like, yeah, a bit modest. And the cheese is here. So I'm going to put another tablespoon of cheese. Maybe a little bit more, because it's a big pupusa. Now I wet my hand and start closing this, pulling the masa up and in. So this is what I do. I just pull it up and press it together. So you press it in and up, right? Up and in until the well actually closes. See how it goes and closes? Because you pull in the masa from underneath to the top and then in. So this is totally closed. So now I make the ball again. It becomes a ball again, only that is filled with chicharrón and queso. And this is called pupusa revuelta, or mixed pupusa, means chicharrón and cheese. This is the traditional way to make pupusas revueltas, okay? So now I just go around it and place it in the middle. This is getting really hot. Okay, place it in the middle, then put the plastic over, leaving enough space so the pupusa has room to spread out. So I'm going to put this over, or you could put another one if you wanted to, because I think this is going to be I think this is a bit too short, but I'm going to try anyway. So I'm going to put it all over, like so the ball is in the middle, and now I put this in the middle, on top, in the middle, and then I press it with my two hands evenly so the pupusa spread out. Alright, I press a little bit more and it's done. See, it's perfectly round, it's quite even, it's not thick or thinner on either side, it's not breaking too much. The cheese is still in, the chicharrón is in, and I just press it to make sure that everything is even and perfect. Alright, now I take the plastic and voila, it's done. Now I need to put it there, which is a hard thing to do as well. So I'm going to wet my hands and then going to lift it and put it in my hand and just put it there. Now, see, it's a very round pupusa and it's the thickness that it needs to be because it has a lot of stuff inside. So I'm going to press it, put the lid on top and make sure that it's not squeezed. Otherwise the cheese and the chicharrón will come out. So I have to make sure that it's closed but not squeezed. Now, I finished the curtido, and you can see I have some chiles jalapeños that I had before that I used for some tacos that I made. I roasted the chiles and I put just one chile because I don't like hot things, but you know, my husband likes it, so it's fine. I think it's quite nice as well. I put a little bit more oregano because it needed the taste. I think the pupusa is done. As you can see, it's really cooked. Some of the cheese came out as usual because, you know, a little bit of the lid comes on top and just squeeze it down, and the cheese is just so, oops. It's just very hard because it's so big, and it's still a bit soft because it's so hot. So this is the pupusa. Sorry, it just, but this is it. This is the traditional Salvadorian pupusa. The only thing that is not traditional is the fact that it's very big, but it suits me because if I make very small pupusas, I have to make like 3 or 4 for each person, and I really don't want to do that because it's just too much work. So one is enough for one person, I think. At least my husband, you know, if he complains, well, he can make one for himself, but this is one that I make for him. And now I don't know if I should put the curtido on top. So I'll put the curtido on top. I don't make sauce because it's just extra work, so I'll put the curtido on top, and this is how you actually serve the curtido, the pupusa with curtido on top. And here's the bits of jalapeno chiles. And I don't put the, I try not to put the juice because it makes the pupusa quite wet, and I don't like it, but some people love it. So, this is it. Salvadorian pupusa, the traditional and authentic one.